Start Wager Talk even before the game is played with our Wager Rewards program. How does it work? Simple. Earn Wager Rewards on every purchase made at Wager Talk and Sports Memo. Those Wager Rewards can be converted into Wager Bucks on the first of every month. There is no additional fee to participate, and no additional details are required outside your valid Wager Talk or Sports Memo membership. On the first of each month, 5% of your Wager Rewards will be converted to Wager Bucks, which are available to purchase on all future purchases. Doesn't it feel good to be part of a rewards program with no additional hoops?
Welcome, Thursday, September 22nd, Wager Talk Today, live here on Wager Talk TV, as we are every Monday through Friday, noon Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific, and of course, archived 24/7, 365 here on Wager Talk TV on YouTube. And don't forget about the Wager Talk TV app for your favorite mobile device. Download it today. Hey, do us a favor, leave us a quick review. It goes a long way to help keeping this great content free here on Wager Talk TV. We've got a great show today on Thursday. I am Steve Merrill, filling in for the Prez. He'll be back tomorrow on Friday, along with my co-host, as always, Teddy Covers from WagerTalk.com. And Teddy, lots of football today on Thursday as we head into the weekend, right around the corner, college and pro football talk. Also, though, plenty of baseball for another week here. We got daily baseball, so we're going to touch on some of that as well. With Jimmy Adams off the bat, he's going to look at that huge Packers-Buccaneers Sunday NFL game. Also, Diamondbacks and Dodgers, the best team in baseball tonight on Thursday. You're going to do a little big game breakdown for Friday night ESPN college football. And then we've got Bryan Power, one of the newer members of WagerTalk.com. He's going to look at another NFL game on Sunday, Rams-Cardinals, big NFC West game there. And also some Thursday night baseball, two playoff teams in the National League East, Braves-Phillies. And then we finish it off with Andy Lang, who's normally on Friday, but he's flip-flopping with Kelly Stewart because the Prez wants to talk smack with Kelly Stewart, so he moved them in the lineup. Dead serious, folks. So if there's ever a reason to tune in tomorrow on Friday, tune in tomorrow on Friday, because the Prez will be back, and he moved Kelly just to talk smack because we're all in an NFL Pick 5 contest. We're 8-2 after 2 weeks. Marco, J Money, and myself, 6-0. Kelly and Prez, 1-1. She gave him smack the first week for being the only loss. He came right back and gave her smack this week, and she did not appreciate that. So they're going to hash it out tomorrow live here on Wager Talk Today on Friday. We've got Andy Lang, though, the prop master. I'm looking forward to talking to him. 3 big NFL props for free for this Sunday. But, Teddy, I know I've got you excited for Friday's show, but we got a lot to talk about here on Thursday. What did you learn last night in the world of sports? No football, but lots of baseball.
Sure, and it's definitely worth noting that if you missed big game breakdowns or analysis for Thursday night football, we broke down Steelers-Browns on this game. We broke on this show, we've broken down West Virginia and Virginia Tech. You can always check out the clips for those on the Wager Talk app, on Wager Talk TV, or look at the old shows on YouTube. Let's talk about what we saw last night and what we learned last night. And look, the White Sox lost on Tuesday night, 10-7, in extra innings to the Guardians, a game that they absolutely had to have. I was real interested to see what the White Sox were going to look like last night, and boy, they were lifeless. This is a team that has all the potential in the world, but now they're 14-14 their last 28. And this is a time they were supposed to make up a bunch of ground. They played the Tigers. What are they, 57-92? The Royals are 60-89. The A's are 55-94. The Rockies are 64-85. And when you're facing those teams over a stretch and you finish 500, yeesh. They came into last night's game ranked second to last in the majors with a .982 fielding percentage. Defense has been a problem all year. And what happened last night? Key errors, teammates throwing teammates under the bus after key errors. Moncada and Vaughn got into it a little bit. The quote after the game from Lance Lynn: "Nothing surprises me, especially when you play," and I think he said shitty, but the quote says lousy all year. We've been 6 games out all year. It seems like we put ourselves in a hole, that's for sure. Miguel Cairo, who's been a spark for them as an interim manager since Tony La Russa left after the game last night, was still talking about Tuesday's loss. Joe Kelly, key bullpen arm, he's still out with a family medical leave issues. The White Sox are done. That's what I learned last night. Even if they bounce back today and get a win over Cleveland, they were saying the right things, certainly in the post-game quotes last night. But the MLB playoff picture gets clearer and clearer with each passing day. Chicago ain't going to be in it. Eve?
Yeah, Teddy, it's interesting because I know back mid-season, you and I were doing some shows back in July, and you, myself, a lot of the other guests, we all talked about what are some play-on teams for the second half of the season, and we all said that at least, the White Sox were a team that was vastly underperforming, right? So in that regard, they could, have some value. And what's interesting about the White Sox, it's such a good lesson to learn in all of sports betting in general, is that just because a team is underperforming doesn't mean they're going to start outperforming, right? And there's a lot of times there's reasons why they continue to underperform. And one of my favorite adages still, I saw this years ago, is that, if a team was good enough to win when they had to win in must-win situations, they wouldn't be in must-win situations in the first place. And I think it's so true, and it's something to keep in mind when we get to December in the NFL, because if you blindly play non-playoff teams against teams that need to win in the NFL, you make money playing those ugly ducklings in December. And we've also talked about how September, a lot of the teams out of the race still play well in baseball, and the big dogs often cash. And there's two reasons. I think, first of all, the White Sox just weren't as good as projected maybe, and also they're playing tight. So my question to you is, now that they're kind of out of it, do they toss the towel, or do they start playing loose and maybe play better baseball over this final week?
Well, yeah, I mean, I played some White Sox futures here in September. At the beginning of the month, I got them, I think, 30-1 to win the American League. I thought they were live, which they were for a brief period of time when Cairo took over. If you ask about how to play the White Sox down the stretch, so my initial reaction today is fade them again. The price wasn't right, and the quotes weren't right, and I didn't fade them today. I'm sure there are a lot of bettors that have faded them today. They're a pretty popular public play on Cleveland, who's red hot right now. And if I, had to play the game, it could only be the Guardians. But that being said, I would not be surprised, given the quotes that I read, if Chicago shows up today. It's not like Cueto's a pitcher that we have to fade. Cueto in a big game is someone who's decent. So for today, at least, I'm not fading the White Sox, although I certainly understand there's ample reason to think that they're once again going to come up short against the Guardians.
And I'll be keeping an eye on offensive momentum here the next few days. If they're hitting the ball still, if they're getting 8 to 10 hits a night, putting up some runs, and I'll feel more confident. But if they're all of a sudden getting 3-4 hits in a game, I'd be very careful that maybe that clubhouse has checked out as well. So day-by-day basis, I agree with that. Keep an eye on it. And the one edge we always have as sports bettors, they got to put a line on all these games. We get to select which ones we play. We're going to talk some baseball here with Jimmy Adams in a moment. But, Jimmy, I want to lead off with a big NFL game with you. This, of course, is Jimmy Adams, WagerTalk.com. Reno native. He's in the South now in Arkansas, and he's still handicapping on a daily basis and doing quite well. And big line move in this one, Jimmy. The total last week in Tampa Bay, Green Bay was as high as 48. It's now down to 41.5. We saw the Bucs as high as a 3-point favorite. Yesterday, it was 1.5. I was doing a show with Jay Money, the NFL show we do every Wednesday, and I was saying the Packers up to 7.5 would make a pretty good teaser. Now it's 1. I'm even seeing some pick'ems out there. So line is dropping. Tampa Bay pretty banged up on offense is the main reason why. How are you approaching this game?
Yeah, well, first off, you mentioned Arkansas, and I didn't want to talk about this game 2 days in a row, but I thought Rob did a great breakdown yesterday. The Razorbacks are going to go in and beat Texas A&M this weekend. Anyway, on to the Packers-Bucks. I don't think the I don't think the public's as high on this Packers team as they should be. Mostly because of a poor performance week 1 versus the Vikings, but this is a great spot for Green Bay, and we've already seen sharp action knock this number way down. Green Bay's defense has speed, and they should be able to contain a Bucs offense that was already having issues. And now, as you mentioned, Steve, they're dealing with a ton of injuries. We have Mike Evans, who's suspended. Leonard Fournette's dealing with a hamstring injury. Chris Godwin's out. Julio Jones is questionable. They have injuries at left tackle, which is a big deal, a big problem when you want to protect Brady's blind side. So they just signed Cole Beasley. How much of an impact will he have right away out of the gates remains to be seen. And now we're seeing Tampa Bay struggle defensively, particularly against the run. Gave up 100 yards on the ground to the Saints, 5 yards per rush attempt. And Green Bay had over 200 yards on the ground last week. So if the Packers can get the ground game going, open it up for Aaron Rodgers and these young receivers, it could go very well. The Saints had 5 turnovers in that game. They were still in position to win prior to the fight with Mike Evans. And Aaron Rodgers isn't going to turn the ball over much. He's got Alan Lazard back. Lazard is dealing with it as well. But, utilizing that running game and Aaron Rodgers throwing to these young wide receivers, I think it's going to go really well for Green Bay in this one. The Packers are going to win this game outright.
So when I'm looking at these two defenses, to me, it's not really that close. The Bucs defense is absolutely elite. That's why they're winning games. And the Packers defense got roughed up by the one good offense that they faced this year. An offense that didn't look quite as good on Monday Night Football against another good defense, and when they beat Minnesota. So when you're talking about a Bucs team who is elite defensively, who's been able to win the first couple of weeks, relying on that elite defense, does it concern you at all with Green Bay in a situation where the Packers can't really rely on their passing game the way they once did if they fall behind?
Yeah, so the Bucs defense is elite, but I think we're starting to see them become vulnerable against the run, and I think that could be a problem. I think Green Bay is going to be able to rush the ball this week, which will, again, open up the wide receivers a little bit for Green Bay. And then I have serious concerns about Tampa on offense and their ability to score. So the only way I can look to this game is the Packers. I feel pretty strongly about it as far as free plays are concerned. So.
Yeah, and Jimmy, we saw this last year. Green Bay gets blown out at New Orleans as a 3-point road favorite in week 1. And as Teddy talked about when we did the show a couple of weeks ago, Green Bay went on. I guess Teddy had the best record the rest of the way in the NFL last year after that blowout loss. So I do feel like, once again, history's repeating itself. Aaron Rodgers doesn't play in the preseason. They don't look very good against Minnesota. I liked them on Sunday night for that reason against the Bears. I had that as a best bet for my clients at WagerTalk.com. And I think the initial line on this was a little high as well. Now with the injuries to Tampa, as you said, this line has dropped. Total has dropped almost a touchdown. Side has dropped almost a field goal already. And Jimmy agrees with that move on the Packers. Jimmy Adams and myself will be on MLB First Pitch at 1:45 Eastern, about an hour and a half live today, along with Drew Martin here on Wager Talk TV. And one of the games we're going to talk about, Jimmy, a little sneak preview here for the live viewers, is Diamondbacks Dodgers. So I want to get your advanced thought on this, and then I'll have a little bit more thoughts in about an hour here on the baseball show. How are you looking at this one?
Sure. So I'm going an interesting way with this one. I'm going to put a half unit on the first 5 under. I'm going to put a half unit on the Diamondbacks in the first 5. We got 2 pitchers that have had remarkable seasons this year, and I'm particularly impressed with Zach Gallen. I mean, prior to giving up 2 and 3 runs in his past 2 starts, Gallen had gone a remarkable 6 straight starts without giving up a run. And he's going deep into games in the process. He's got a high strikeout rate. He's 3rd in the league in WHIP, and it's not uncommon to see him go 7 strong without allowing a run. Arizona not in the best current form, but they've won 9 of the past 11 times Gallen's taken the mound, and we just saw him beat the Dodgers the last 2 days, so they can certainly win a first 5 here. Now they've got their best pitcher going on the mound. Gallen has 1 start against the Dodgers this year. He didn't allow a run, not surprising. Then you look at Julio Urias, who has very similar numbers. He's allowed 1 earned run or fewer in 7 of his past 8, 2 earned runs or fewer in 11 straight, and he gave up 1 run when he faced the Diamondbacks earlier this season. So reason for the play, the split play here, the first 5 under, pretty self-explanatory, 2 dominant pitchers. But I'm getting a big plus price with the Diamondbacks in the first 5. I think it was plus 170 I saw. So that's too good a price to pass up with a D-backs team that we know can beat the Dodgers, and we know how dominant Zach Gallen is.
So the Dodgers have a 20-game lead in the NL West. They have an 8-game lead over the Mets. They've clinched just about everything that they need to clinch. They clinched the division. They haven't clinched everything yet. Assuming they do in the next day or two, which they'll clinch home field throughout. Is this a team you want to fade down the stretch? Are the Dodgers going to bring their A game over the last week of the season, or is LA circled pretty high on your list of teams that may be priced in the wrong range over the final week or 10 days of the season?
Yeah, great question, Teddy. So if there was ever a time to fade the Dodgers this season, it's right now. Their head, we don't know where their heads are at. Like you said, they've pretty much clinched everything. Now, pick your spots wisely. Don't blindly fade them. But the Dodgers are going to be highly inflated in the betting market. They're a public team. They're live to cash every night. But if you can find good spots, like with Zach Gallen, who doesn't allow anything, and you're getting a big plus price, it could be a good opportunity to fade him. So yeah, pick your spots and fade him the last couple weeks here.
Yeah, just to put in perspective how good this Dodgers team is this year, there's only 5 other teams in baseball that are more than 100 net runs positive. The Dodgers are 103 net runs better than the Yankees, who are the second best team. So, I mean, they're just crushing teams. And here's what jumped out to me, guys, also. They're 103 and 46 on the season. They're 5 and 8 in extra inning games, and they're only 14 and 13 in one-run games. So, I mean, a lot of times teams are better or worse than they look because of those close games. The Dodgers are 5 and 8 in extras, which is probably a toss-up, right? Because they're the best team in baseball. They should be above 500 just randomly, and they're still 103 and 46. So you're going to still get pretty good prices fading them. And like you said, Jimmy, D-backs have won back-to-back, and this is a 5-game series that concludes tonight, a weird set there as well. And we'll talk more about this and a couple other select baseball games in 1.5 hours here on MLB First Pitch Live, 1:45 Eastern, and archive 24/7 right here on WagerTalk TV. Jimmy, what you got going on at WagerTalk.com?
Yeah, so I mean, we're winding down. Everyone's excited for football, but we're just continuing to cash tickets at a high rate in baseball. I have one best bet up for tonight. I'll be on the show giving out another best bet. Well, I just gave it out here, but we'll be talking more games with Steve later. Football card will be up very shortly, but get involved with baseball. We're continuing to make money consistently, and that's about all I got.
Yeah, it's a great reason to get an all access. This time of year, you're getting baseball on a daily basis. You're getting college and pro football as well. And Jimmy Adams, as good as they get at WagerTalk.com. And he'll be on in about an hour and a half. MLB First Pitch, 1:45 Eastern today on Thursday. All right, Teddy, had a little NFL and MLB talk with Jimmy. It's time to talk a little college football, big game breakdown style. You've got the Friday night ESPN game here, 30 seconds.
You're a winner at WagerTalk even before the game is played with our Wager Rewards program. How does it work? Simple. Earn Wager Rewards on every purchase made at WagerTalk and Sports Memo. Those Wager Rewards can be converted into Wager Bucks on the first of every month. There is no additional fee to participate, and no additional details are required outside your valid WagerTalk or Sports Memo membership. On the first of each month, 5% of your Wager Rewards will be converted to Wager Bucks, which are available to purchase on all future purchases. Doesn't it feel good to be part of a rewards program with no additional hoops?
It is time for today's big game breakdown. Let's talk Friday night ESPN college football. This one should be fun. Syracuse and Virginia. Looking at the Wager Talk live odds screen, I'm seeing the orange minus 9.5. Total sitting at 53.5/54. And 9 feels a little bit high at first glance, doesn't it? And so does 54. But from a point spread standpoint, I don't want Virginia, all right? Brennan Armstrong's a solid QB. He does not have a huge downfield arm. He does not have a good receiving core. He does not have a good offensive line protecting him. And this is not an offense that's clicking on all cylinders. Last week, they moved the football, they got in the red zone, and they spent the entire week shooting themselves in the foot. They ran for 200 yards, and they got 16 points in the game. Tony Elliott losing his temper on the sidelines, taking timeouts on field goals to get the players in, and then the players still aren't in correctly. There are issues right now for Virginia. But on defense, Lex Long was making plays all over the field. He probably won the game for them against ODU. Syracuse is a dead nuts under team that has cashed back-to-back overs in the last 2 weeks. Right? UConn's defense couldn't stop Syracuse to the line of scrimmage, and they just ran over them and scored 6 touchdowns in that ball game, and it snuck over the total. And then last week, a game that was 9-3 at the half and 15-10 with less than 9 minutes remaining, somehow ended up cashing over 59.5 bets with some insanity at the end of that game. That's not the way Syracuse is playing this year. They want to run the football. Trader doesn't have a downfield arm. It's a dink and dunk offense. It's not a big play offense. It's a good-looking defense that's been able to control the line of scrimmage against everyone. 53.5, 54? That's too high. This is not about pushing pace. This isn't Dino from 5 years ago. It's Dino right now. Look for Syracuse and Virginia to stay under the total on Friday night, ESPN. There's your big game breakdown. Back to you, Mr. Merrill.
Thank you, Teddy Covers. And yeah, Virginia's gone under in all three of their games this season. A real lackluster 16-14 win against Old Dominion, an in-state, somewhat rival game last weekend. So we'll see how this plays out. That's the ESPN national TV game, 7 Eastern, Friday night. And Teddy Covers gave it to you free here on Wager Talk today. All right, Teddy, let's keep the talk going with some more NFL and MLB, just like we did with Jimmy. We're going to bring in Bryan Power, WagerTalk.com. And Bryan, welcome to the show. And I want to get your thoughts, hit some baseball. You've got a nice look at that NL East matchup between the Braves and Phillies. But I first want to look at a little bit more football. And let's talk about an NFL game on Sunday, which is a pretty big divisional matchup. We got the Super Bowl champ Rams going to the Arizona Cardinals. Cardinals just cashed an over for me. Hey, look, I'm on a 17-run entering yesterday, and I said, you got to have some fortunate wins. And I had the over 51.5 and went to overtime. They got the touchdown. So, like always, when you're on a 17-3 run, there's always a little luck involved in your favor, most likely. But yeah, so they did just play an overtime game at home against the Raiders. Now they stay at home against the Rams. How are you attacking this one?
Okay, well, as you mentioned, it's a division matchup. We all know that. And my natural inkling is when it comes to the total and you've got division games, you look under. And you talked about Arizona a little bit last week. There's Steve. Hats off to you. You had to be feeling great, when that touchdown got scored. Arizona, they wound up with 29. But as you know, they only had 15 before they tied things up against the Raiders with a touchdown and 2-point conversion at the end of regulation. And then you get the game-winning score in overtime, a fumble return from the defense. So you're talking about one play away from Arizona coming into this game, averaging 18 points per game because they only had 21 in the opener against Kansas City, less than 300 total yards. Almost half of that came when the game was out of reach. And the Chiefs certainly were not playing lockdown defense. So not really impressed with the Arizona offense through 2 games. And on the other side of the matchup, you've got the Rams, Super Bowl champs. They gave up a somewhat misleading 27 last week to Atlanta. So I think the 29 Arizona scored last week on offense, misleading. And then the amount of points the Rams gave up last week, misleading. The Falcons had just 3 points late in the third quarter, and that looked like an easy win for the Rams. But Falcons got the comeback, ultimately failed. There was a special teams score involved, a safety to help Atlanta get to 27. Not going to see that happen every week. And the Rams offense, they had a touchdown drive right before half that started inside the Falcons' 10-yard line. Kind of a gift there. Let's not forget they only put up 10 points in the season opener against the Bills. And just 1 second-half touchdown so far from LA in 2 games. I know the numbers come down a few points, but I still see some value. Both teams have injuries at skill positions they're dealing with. Under 16-7 for the Rams off an ATS loss. I like the under in this one.
So here's my question for you, and Bryan, it's real good to talk to you, man. You're a guy that I feel like I've known for years, and I don't think you and I have ever said hello, even. So it's real good to talk to you.
Hi, how's it going?
Yeah. But I got to ask you, okay, the Rams defense last week against Atlanta. I know that the Falcons had 3 points at the half, but they moved the ball up and down the field. Atlanta punted once in that ball game. Arizona's defense. Did the Raiders score on every first half drive? I don't remember. They did. They might have punted once in the first half, and then they thought they'd won the game and didn't really come out with that intensity in the second half. So, we have both an LA defense that may be a little bit overrated and an Arizona defense that may be a little bit underrated. Or both. Does either of those factors concern you at all here?
Well, I think when you look at the games last week, both of them for, a half, 3 quarters were blowouts. They weren't close games. And I think this could be a closer game. And we might see, neither, the Rams defense, I think you can chalk that up to maybe relaxing. Like I said, there was a special teams touchdown too. I don't think they're giving that up. They scored inside the 10. That's probably not going to happen. Again, there's some randomness in the scoring we saw in both games, quite frankly, last week. So I can understand that neither defense is going to wow anybody, what they've done through 2 weeks. I just think some of the randomness subsides here this week. And we it's a division game. The teams know each other a little bit better. And we're more likely to get an under here. It's going to be probably a closer game, quite frankly, as the spread indicates, So neither team's going to be playing catch up like we saw last week.
Bryan Power liking the under between the Rams and Cardinals. And I forgot you guys probably hadn't met Teddy because Brian and I did Wager Talk Today about a month and a half ago. And I guess I was filling in for Teddy because it must have been Prez and me. So it's nice to have everyone together for the first time. And Teddy, speak of the Prez real quick. I got to look at some comments here in the chats. David wants to know if we should use the Bears for his survivor pick. I mean, obviously that would be a play against Houston situation, but there is some game theory with the eliminator contest. So you got to be ready for that. And also, I had to pull out the flip phone the other day, and they called me out on it here again. And I got to find who it is. C. James. C. James asking if the flip phone is in effect, and it is. We've all been around long enough to remember that. Special thank you, everybody that's watching us. Once again, chime in on the chats. Let us know your thoughts on the show today and the games this weekend. Brian, let's talk about a little baseball while we still got you here. And we're going to look at a divisional matchup here in the NL East. And we talked earlier about how the White Sox are pretty much outside looking in now. The playoff picture is getting pretty set. The Mets and Braves have obviously clinched, but Braves are still just a game behind the Mets for a very important division title because that'll be the second division winner. They'll get the bye as the NL Central is going to have to play in that wild card round. Philly's pretty much locked in. Well, not necessarily locked in, but they're in the wild card as of now. So it's an important game for both teams. How are you playing this one tonight, Atlanta at Philadelphia?
Okay, I think I'm probably going to get some pushback maybe here from Teddy on this one, but let's try anyway, okay? I can understand a little trepidation playing against Atlanta. We all know they've been very good off a loss this year, 37-16 in that role. And prior to yesterday's 3-2 loss to the Nats, they'd won 5 straight. Meanwhile, the Phillies had lost 5 in a row before rallying to beat Toronto 4-3 last night. But I'm going Phillies here in this spot for a number of reasons. One is the stakes. You touched on this a little bit, Steve, by the way. What a wonderful device that is you've got in your hand. That's incredible that you still have that. But the Phillies, they've got revenge for the 3-game sweep down in Atlanta last week. Okay. And in one of those games, we have the same pitching matchup that we have today. Fried for the Braves, Suarez for the Phillies. Suarez was actually slightly the better pitcher that day. He allowed just 1 run and 2 hits over 6 innings. Fried allowed 2 home runs. Both were solo shots, so he got a little lucky there. He's actually allowed 4 home runs, has Fried, in his last 2 starts, and been very fortunate that all were solo shots. It was the Phillies bullpen, obviously, that let them down in that game. Allowed 6 runs in the bottom of the 8th. They thought they had that one. And you talked about the pennant race and what's left to play for here. Yes, Atlanta is chasing the Mets, 1 game back entering the day today. They do want that number 2 seed because it gets you a bye. But the Phillies getting the wild card is obviously more important because they don't get the wild card. They're not in. They've got a 2.5 game lead over Milwaukee. They obviously want to widen that. I like what I've seen with the betting splits in this game. Phillies, to me, good value. 45-32 on the season at home, 5-2 when in the plus 125 to plus 175 range. I do not like the word momentum, but I think last night's win could be a much needed spark for the Phils. Look for them to surprise, take the series opener.
So, Brian, when I sit in this seat, my goal is, I like flicking people's ears. I'm not going to deny it. I do.
Oh, I know.
My goal sitting in this seat is absolutely anything that I can think of that is relevant, about a game, about a topic, to have a little bit of discussion about it. It's not specifically for me trying to poke holes in somebody's case. There are cases to be made for every bet that anyone makes, and there are cases to be made for the other side for every bet. All that being said, Suarez has had 4 starts against the Braves this season. You talked about the last one, which was good. The previous 3 were not so good. None of them quality starts. He hasn't been in great form of late. This is a guy who we made money with earlier in the season, but he's kind of worn down the stretch. Does it concern you at all about Suarez's recent form being dicey and about his struggles against the Braves prior to that last outing?
Sure, absolutely, it does. But I look and value more the fact that when you've got 2 division teams where it's not a complete mismatch, like say the Dodgers and the Rockies, where obviously the Dodgers could beat the Rockies every single time out. These teams, okay, Atlanta's a better baseball team, but these teams are fairly even. And I think for Atlanta to beat Philly, I think this would be 5 in a row if they won tonight. Pretty hard to do on the road. Again, the Phillies have that motivation from just trying to lock down that last wild card spot. And I mentioned Atlanta off a loss, how good they've been this year. Philly, I believe, is 50-29 off a win. So usually if they've won the previous day, they're pretty good. They've got good numbers against lefties. I just think the revenge angle is pretty strong here, and that's outweighs, I guess, some of the past performances from Suarez.
Bryan Power, like a little bit of a home dog there in the Philadelphia Phillies. And Brian, I some inside information when we were at the meet and greet in August in Las Vegas. I was told Teddy does like to walk up to a hot craps table and occasionally play the don't pass. So he is the ultra contrarian devil advocate. And so I was thinking of that as you said he likes to poke.
Yeah. You don't want to play craps with me. That's all I'm going to say. I'm a mush as well as a. Anyone that's hot, I can walk over to the craps table, dude. You'll 7 out in 2 seconds flat. That's a innate ability that I don't know where I got from, but I can make anybody 7 out.
Well, that's like a guy that says I can never pick a winner. I was like, if that's really true, I'll just fade it every time. So if you can really make people 7 out, I'll tail right behind you and put it on the don't pass too, Teddy. I got no problem with that. That's good stuff. Brian, so you got a 3-game college football package loaded for the weekday stuff. What else you got going on at WagerTalk.com?
Yeah, well, 3-game football, NFL, and college for the weekday, and then we've got a 4-game package loaded for Saturday. So yeah, if you want NFL and college tonight, plus a best bet for Friday, we've got that all available. Get it right now. Get all 3 games. Hopefully go 3-0. Then Saturday, the card is in. We've got 4 games there, so you can go 4-0. The best bet is a total. We've been doing pretty well with our college totals so far, 71%. We'll take that. MLB, not going to lie here. It's been kind of a tough run the last week. And by kind of tough, I mean really tough. But we're going to bounce back today. We got 2 plays, one in the afternoon, one late night, and then the NFL card, in addition to the Thursday game, which is part of that aforementioned 3-pack. As soon as we're done here, I'm getting ready, putting that up, and we should be ready to go at WagerTalk.com.
Just yet another reason to get one of those all sports, all access direct subscriptions. You got baseball, college football with totals, which I love, and then also some NFL there. So all sports, all access, one-stop shopping gets it done at WagerTalk.com. And we'll keep the chats going. Let's get to those likes. Abid asked if I'm doing a vice presidential address. Now, I don't think so, but I will have the college football top 25 video tomorrow night on Friday. The NFL Fade the Public on Saturday. And by the way, Fading the Public is 8-1 the first 2 weeks on that free video, including 6-0 last week. So check that out. There is weekend content here on Wager Talk TV. And Abid, always appreciate your support. You're in there on a daily basis. And by the way, I didn't realize Jay Money was in the house. Carmine Bianco as well in the house in the live chats. We got some Wager Talk cappers. And Jay and I did an NFL show yesterday. Check out his channel on YouTube. Jay Money is Money on YouTube, part of the Wager Talk family there. Andy Lang, the prop master. Got to bring in Andy Lang. Andy was supposed to be on tomorrow and Friday. We made the late switch. As I said at the top of the show, Andy, he moved you and Kelly. He switched you because Prez wants to talk smack to Kelly. I don't think he's going to win that contest, so I advise everyone to tune in tomorrow for the segment here on Wager Talk Today on Friday with Kelly Stewart. But the good news is I get Andy Lang on Thursday. And Andy, we're not talking any NASCAR, but I got to point out that first time in history, all 3 non-playoff drivers win the first 3 stage races of the playoffs. Just tremendous payoffs on those 3 guys. Check out Andy's life in the Fast Lane video for more NASCAR and Formula One every week here on Wager Talk TV. And you are the prop master, Andy, so let's jump right into some NFL props. You know, the Vikings obviously had a little bit of an offensive stinker on Monday Night Football. I get a feeling they'll probably bounce back offensively against a Detroit team that's moving the ball but not stopping anybody. Do you see a good over prop for me maybe in that Viking game?
Yeah, I do. I got 3 props I'm going to go over with you guys, and then I got something a little special for you at the end. Steve and Teddy, this is right up your alley. But yeah, let's talk Justin Jefferson. Let's go over 96.5 yards receiving. Teddy, last week we talked about number 1 wide receivers having a field day against the Lions. We talked about Terry McLaurin, and he easily went over his receiving total against Detroit, as did Curtis Samuel and John Dotson. Carson Wentz threw for 337 yards, and now Detroit has given up 547 yards passing, that 6th worst in the NFL, and I think this is a nice rebound game for Justin Jefferson. Darius Slay and the Eagles completely shut him down on Monday night. He only had 6 catches for 48 yards. Also, Detroit gives up long passes. Has given up at least 1 pass of 40 yards or more in each game this year. I wouldn't be surprised to see Jefferson catch a long one. I think Kirk Cousins gets back on track with him. I think he should thrive, and I'm going to take Justin Jefferson. I know it's a big number, but over 96.5 fading that Detroit Lions secondary.
So there was a lot of talk about Adam Thielen this past week, who I think is a mediocre receiver who had one or 2 good years and got a whole bunch of pub for it, and then has been mediocre ever since. Nonetheless, he was a non-factor on Monday night. Jalen Reagor was a non-factor on Monday night. It's not like Minnesota doesn't have other weapons besides Jefferson. They just haven't really been involved in the offense all that much in the first couple of weeks. Are you concerned at all that Cousins is going to try to spread it around a little bit more? Because you asked me why he didn't, why they look so ugly on Monday night. Part of it was that they only had a game plan for Jefferson. It wasn't like the rest of the guys got involved in that passing game at all. So does O'Connell's game plan this week potentially concern?
It could. I just don't know if Adam Thielen has it in him yet. And I was high on Adam Thielen coming into this year. He's on one of my fantasy football teams, and red alert. I mean, he's just been non-existent. He cannot get open. I don't know what the game plan is, but if I'm the Vikings and I'm coming off such a terrible performance, I want to feed the beast, which is Justin Jefferson. He's going to have the biggest mismatch. There's nobody in Detroit's secondary that can keep up with him. And we've seen Kirk Cousins just dial in on Justin Jefferson. I'm hoping that he does it this weekend so we can cash. I just expect a huge game for Jefferson. When Kirk Cousins gets into trouble or needs somebody to lean on, it's Jefferson all day.
Yeah, and Cousins once again had a bad primetime game on Monday. I didn't believe too much of that primetime jinx stuff, but he is in a bounce back spot as well, so he should have a better passing game, and Jefferson likely will be that target. Andy, Bryan Power just talked about the Rams and Cardinals game on Sunday. You see anything in that one from a prop perspective?
Oh, man, do I love Tyler Higbee right now. I'll take him over 4.5 receptions for sure. He's gone over this number in both games this season. The Cardinals were really good against tight ends last year, but that has not been the case this year. Through 2 games, they are the worst team defending tight ends. They've given up an average of 9.5 receptions a game to tight ends in their 2 games. Now, they did face Travis Kelce and they faced Darren Waller. But here's the thing. I mean, Cooper Kupp is the number 1 option. Absolutely no denying that. He's had 29 targets. But Higbee is number 2 on the team with 20 targets. Third is Allen Robinson with 7. So Higbee is their number 2 option in the passing game. I think this is a great matchup for him. The Cardinals have had a lot of losses on defense in the offseason, and it's pretty obvious that they are not covering tight ends well. So get some value on Tyler Higbee. That's my favorite prop in this game.
Now, Bryan Power just came on earlier in the show and talked about he liked the under in this ballgame. Does it worry you at all to be looking at an over receptions in a game that, I wouldn't talk anyone out of playing the under in this one. It's not like Arizona's offense has worked real well against McVay's defense in recent meetings.
No, this is why we're taking a look at receptions and not yards. I don't expect Higbee to be a deep threat by any stretch. He's kind of one of those outlet passes for for the Rams when play breaks down or they just bring him across the middle. I don't even think he had over 50 yards, but he had 7 catches. So I don't think you're looking at a huge yards production. But if they try and take away Kupp, Higbee's going to be open. I just love the receptions here. I think he's pretty involved in the passing offense.
It's Andy Lang, WagerTalk.com, giving us a couple Sunday NFL props and a little bonus here for the live viewers and people watching us on Thursday on the playback. We got Thursday night football, Steelers and Browns tonight. How about something for the Thursday night primetime game on Amazon Prime, Andy?
Yeah, let's take Najee Harris under 55.5 yards rushing. Listen, this rushing game for Pittsburgh is not working. He's gone under this total in both games this year. He's averaging 2.9 yards a carry. They're the 7th worst rushing offense this year. Total, they have 166 yards rushing. 70 of those rushing yards is through wide receivers and their quarterback. So this is just an offensive line that's not creating a lot of holes. Cleveland has only allowed 147 yards total on the ground through defense through 2 games. So it's not working for Najee Harris right now. Keep taking the unders on him until he proves otherwise.
So this is another one that I'm not going to make a case for the other side. I'm going to ask you about the number. When it comes to, is this one that people need to get on right now? Is the money coming for the under for Najee Harris rushing? Or is it your standard, well, it's a national TV single event, no one's betting the under, everyone's playing the over because they want to see players do good, not do bad. What are you seeing in terms of the market for this particular prop on Thursday morning?
Line is held pretty steady. I think what you're seeing is, people want to bet overs, and now there's talk of wind tonight, which I think is a little bit, pardon the pun, but overblown. So I think people might be saying, well, they're going to try and run the ball a lot. Well, Cleveland knows that. So Mitch, and listen, talk about a non-threat in the passing game. Trubisky's just been awful. So I don't think there's anybody that is scared on Cleveland's side of the ball about Mitch Trubisky lighting them up. I think they do a pretty good job of stacking the line and taking Najee Harris under. It's one of those where Pittsburgh might want to run the ball, but can they? So far, the answer has been no.
And, Andy, I know you have a little special surprise for us here, so we'll get to that in a moment. We have a couple extra minutes. Since no vice presidential address, I want to ask each of you a real quick NFL question. Scoring has been down in a lot of games the first couple of weeks. We've seen some high-scoring games like the Lions, for example, but we've seen some real low-scoring games. And tonight's game jumped out to me. The total is down in the 30s now. And, Teddy, I'll ask you first. I mean, is this just a slow start with just 3 preseason games? Are you seeing anything fundamentally different in the NFL this year, or do you feel like these overs are about to start smacking and cashing?
I'm not convinced the overs are about to start smacking and cashing, but what did we see this preseason? We saw the offenses, the starting offenses for half the teams in the league didn't see the field. So when that happens, it's going to take a couple of weeks of the regular season for the offenses to start clicking. Now, does that mean we're about to see a run of overs? I'm not convinced that's the case because there's plenty of offenses in this league that are still very broken. Andy just talked about one of them in Pittsburgh. It's an offense that's really, the running game's not working and the passing game's not working. Right now, it's a broken offense. There's a handful of those. You can look at Houston, you can look at Seattle, you can look at any number of teams that are struggling to move the football consistently early in the season. But am I going to blindly play overs right now? No, it'll get there. But I'm not surprised at the first couple of weeks. And it's not like the first couple of weeks you made a fortune blindly playing unders. There's a lean to the under, but it's not a huge, the whole league's gone under the first 2 weeks and everyone's paying attention to it. It's, in my mind, it's not a factor I'm considering heavily for week 3. Andy?
Yeah, well, I mean, I have a 5% play that is up tonight, and it doesn't have anything to do with the total. I just think sometimes these numbers swing wildly in the other direction. I mean, we're down to 38 in an NFL game. I'm not rushing to take the over, though. No chance with these offenses. So especially Cleveland runs the ball, the clock is going to be running. Brissett and Trubisky, they're not, lighting the world on fire with the deep ball. So it's hard to see some quick passes. I'm not going to be involved with the total at all. I will say, though, one of my strategies coming into this year was to look at first quarter unders. They worked great for me last year. So far, we're 9-5 through 2 weeks. So the unders have been doing really, really well for us, and we'll continue to do that throughout the rest of the season.
Yeah, and Andy, that was always a strategy for the Super Bowl that I loved, especially when Belichick and Brady were playing. First quarter unders were money in the bank, but half of those games were basically Patriots with Belichick and Brady, so got to be careful with that angle. But that's an interesting take on the first quarter unders. He is the prop master. Andy Lang, what else you got for us?
Just a 5% play that's up here. We got a 5% UFC play that is up as well. That's for next week. So go ahead and grab that. Make sure you get the best number. And then I'm pretty excited, guys. Check it out, man. I won my sports bingo card. I cashed it. Can you believe it? I mean, I've been waiting all year for it. So we take a look here. Across the top row, we cashed a positive drug test. That happened in UFC. Mike Trout, not in the playoffs again. That one cashed. Just recently, cheating on wife with a coworker. Thank you to Ime Duca. Cashed that one. An NFL team with no offensive coordinator. Never seen that before, but it cashes. And then James Harden gets us to quit on 2 NBA teams in 1 season. So just amazing stuff on the sports bingo card. We got quite a few of them. DK, DraftKings loses millions on a promo. That cashes. That just happened. Doc Rivers got the porn content on Twitter. So just a really fun bingo card that we have here in 2022. Let's see what some other ones. Stealing welfare money for a volleyball stadium, classic. ESPN Plus raises prices. We got that one again. A college football team wins 7-3, but didn't score a touchdown. Unbelievable that one got there with Iowa. We got a rusher skating doping. That's almost as good as your free space. And then golfers choosing Saudi Arabia over PGA Tour. Did not expect that one in my lifetime to cash. But we got a few other ones. We got a Mets collapse. We got a Andrew Luck unretires. Now, I do have to ask your guys' opinion. Knicks mess up free agency. Is that a winner or not? Did the Knicks mess up free agency?
Teddy,
yes,
that's you.
It's always a win. Did they get
Oh, it's
Donovan
always
Mitchell?
a
They
winner.
did
Yeah,
not.
there we go. Cash
I would say that might
Knicks
be another
mess
free
up
space.
free agency.
You're not supposed to have 2 free spaces on a bingo card.
That's a good one. We're going for the full card. We don't have a strip club incident just yet. We got to wait for an 0-17 NFL team, but yeah, pretty good. Pretty good here. We don't have a lockout either, so that one's against the odds. But yeah, bingo card doing really well in 2022.
Yeah, you're not getting a lockout, I hope. So you're not going to get the blackout. I was like, you have a very good chance of blacking out that card, but the lockout, the Russian Doping is a free space. The Knicks is basically a second free
Easy
space.
one.
So I'm voiding your card. You're not allowed 2 free spaces on a bingo card, Andy Lang. You know the rules.
Darn it.
That's Andy Lang. The prop master, that was a great prop. The bingo prop here on Wager Talk TV. Thanks, Andy. Best of luck this week. Don't forget, he's got UFC, he's got props, he does everything. He covers all the sports. Great way to diversify your betting portfolio, seriously, with the prop master, Andy Lang. That's Teddy Covers. Teddy, get some rest tonight. You're going to have Kelly Stewart and Prez going head-to-head tomorrow. I'm must-watch TV on Friday. And thanks for letting me sit in today on Thursday. We appreciate Bryan Power and Jimmy Adams being here. Don't forget MLB first pitch, 1 hour, 1:45 Eastern with Drew Martin, myself, and Jimmy. We'll be back talking some baseball. In the meantime, Teddy, take us home.
Sure, that's going to wrap it for the Thursday edition of Wager Talk today. We'll do it again tomorrow, same time, same channel, 9 a.m. here on the left coast, noon for you back east. Between now and then, come on, you guys know what to do. Enjoy the games, and good luck.
You're a winner at WagerTalk even before the game is played with our Wager Rewards program. How does it work? Simple. Earn wager rewards on every purchase made at WagerTalk and Sports Memo. Those wager rewards can be converted into wager bucks on the first of every month. There is no additional fee to participate, and no additional details are required outside your valid WagerTalk or Sports Memo membership. On the first of each month, 5% of your wager rewards will be converted to wager bucks, which are available to purchase on all future purchases. Doesn't it feel good to be part of a rewards program with no additional hoops?